Hit it.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we can try that again. It's all right. I caught you off guard. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes. You know, it's actually surprising. This is, I think, the smallest group we had, but yet that's the loudest good morning I've gotten so far. So, good job, everyone. So, I just like to do a quick check-in, no matter what kind of lecture I'm doing, just to see how we're all doing energy-wise. So, can everyone give me a thumbs up right now? Thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, so if you have had 3 cups of coffee, 2 shots of espresso, and you are ready and have already done 3 miles of running, you might be here. If you're still a little tired, maybe only had 1 cup of coffee, you might be here after 2 cups. If you are still asleep and you are struggling, that's all right. But I just like to see, where is everyone feeling right now? I'm a little bit somewhere in the middle. Yeah? All right. Okay. All right. So, my name is Ryan Jones. I work and have the honor and privilege of working at the Phoenix Zoo, and we get to talk some pretty fun things today. We're going to talk about different career paths that involve working with animals. But first, I would like someone to raise their hand and tell me, what is this? I'm going to have my friend in the back. What do you believe this is? It is a shell of some kind of turtle. Can anyone raise their hand and tell me, and be a little bit more specific, what kind of reptile are we talking about? What do you think? It is a desert tortoise. That is absolutely correct. Has anyone ever seen a desert tortoise in the wild, at a zoo, at someone's home, as a pet? Who has seen a desert tortoise before? Nice, hands down. Now, raise your hands if you have seen a desert tortoise in the wild here in Arizona. So if you have not, it's actually more common than you think. So desert tortoises, they have these amazing rugged shells. They have elephantine feet. These are all adaptations that help them dig. These tortoises, they excavate. And it's estimated they live anywhere from 80 to 95% of their life underground. So they're labeled as a fossorial species. That comes from that word fossil. Fossils are where? Underground. So this is actually an incredible behavior of these desert tortoises because they are digging so much of their lives that they help a lot of the plant life here in the Sonoran Desert. In fact, the Sonoran Desert is the most biodiverse desert when it comes to plant life in the entire world, which is something that we might take for granted. If we didn't have these tortoises digging all day, all night, we'd look a lot more like the Sahara and not have nearly as much plant life, like our beloved saguaro cacti, choyas, different types of prickly pears that produce delicious fruits. So how are these tortoises helping us out by doing this? Well, by digging all day and all night, not only are they breaking up the dead soil that's full of clay, they also recycle nutrients and they spread seeds. So they help plant life grow, which they then eat and then spread those seeds around. So these tortoises are called a keystone species because without them, our deserts would look completely different. They'd be dramatically changed. So we're going to talk today about different career paths here at the Phoenix Zoo. So we're going to cover quite a few different things. We'll talk a little bit about my background, where I come from, where I grew up. It's all here, but you get to learn a little bit about me. We'll also talk about some of the decisions I made when it came to going to different schools. Did you raise your hand by any chance? No? Okay, totally fine. Just making sure. We also are going to talk about some of the research I did in my schooling years. We're also going to mention some of the different stuff that I do. Since I mentioned I work at the Phoenix Zoo, we'll talk about, I've worked a bunch of different jobs at the zoos as well. And then we'll talk about some of the future, some of the things that you can do right now as teens if you're interested in working with animals. So first and foremost, who am I? So I grew up right here in Phoenix, Arizona. Although I went to a school kind of more north in the middle of the state. It's called the Warm School of Arizona. Has anyone ever heard of Mayer, Arizona by any chance? Yeah, most people haven't. Oh yeah, we got one? Sweet. So, Warm School is actually the first person all day. The Warm School is technically in Mayer, but it's not even part of the town. It is a very small community. On average, there's maybe like 200 people that live there. It is an international boarding school on an active cattle ranch in the middle of nowhere. And no, my parents did not decide to send me here because I was a bad student or a bad kid. I chose this because I was really interested in farms. I was really interested in agriculture really young as a kid. And when you go there, you see all of this life. Like, it is literally just an outdoor school plopped in the middle of an active cattle ranch. It's kind of awesome. There's a lot of horses, there's a lot of goats, a lot of cattle, and I knew that this was something that I was kind of interested in. I was like, I want to go to that school. So I started boarding from 6th grade to about 12. So I did all middle school and all high school boarding on this active cattle ranch. I did mention it's international, so I can order coffee in 12 different languages, which is a bonus tip for me. And I also learned to really appreciate where my food came from. So we grew almost all of our food in a certified organic garden. It was incredibly humbling to realize how much money, time, and water goes into the food that we eat. And when there's that separation, I really feel like we learn to almost distance ourselves from the growing process. So I knew that was something I was really passionate about from a young age. We even had Burpee, which is one of the largest seed producers in the world, or at least in this country, sponsor us as well. So it was really cool to be exposed from this from a young age. But I graduated, and I was like, what do I do now? I knew I wanted to pick something that I would enjoy later on in life, because we are forced to make this decision in our late teens that affects the rest of our lives. Now, is that the only truth? No, we can make changes later on, but I wanted to really make sure I was setting myself up for success. So I thought about different topics that if I were to pursue a career in, I wouldn't hate. So I thought I really like marine biology, I really like being in the ocean, I like zoology as a whole, I like learning about animals and teaching about them. I knew I loved working with plants and agriculture and farming. I loved music, I loved languages, and I loved art. So I went online and kind of researched just the different career paths, what sounded cool, what at least made money so I could survive, pay rent, and be able to afford food. And I went with marine biology. So once I picked this career path, I then had to ask a couple more questions. Do I need a college degree? Do I need to go to a specific school? Like, is there one school that if I want to be the marine biology person that I need to go to? Would I need to move from this school? Would I be able to find anything that's closer to home so I wouldn't have to uproot my entire life and then leave somewhere? So I really ruminated on that first question, do I need a degree? And when I looked at other professional marine biologists, almost all of them had some kind of bachelor's degree, from a 4-year college program in biology, conservation, or some kind of specialty in marine biology. So I decided I would go for this degree, but when I looked around, there wasn't many oceans to study here in the Sonoran Desert. So I looked at schools all throughout the West Coast in California, Oregon, and Washington State, and then I made the decision to move on over to Seattle, and I was surrounded by oceans. It was pretty amazing. I specifically went to Seattle University. If this is something you are interested in, getting a degree, there are a couple of things I wish I knew before I went into this. One, look at the possible research opportunities. Secondly, really consider the degree you're getting. I went for more of a specialty degree. I went for marine and conservation biology, but I really could have just taken a regular biology course and I would have taken almost the exact same classes. And on top of that, a general biology degree is a little bit more flexible. Like, if I were to go somewhere where there are no oceans, would that marine biology degree really help me? Not 100% sure. But I went to Seattle University because of the research opportunities. I saw that they had a laboratory on one of the islands there, and I was really excited. If you're looking for some marine biology programs here in Arizona, ASU has some brand new, newer, they've been around for a couple of years now, marine biology programs, and they've got laboratories in Hawaii and in Bermuda. So just because you're in a school that isn't near an ocean, there are still opportunities to do some of that active field research later on. So I moved out to Seattle, I looked at the degree, I looked at all of the required classes, did not realize how much chemistry I'd be taking. Do we have any chemistry lovers in this class? That's funny, no one has raised their hand for that question. Please double check the required classes for your degree. I did not realize I'd have to take a full year of organic chemistry, which was really brutal, and I was the last year that I was required to do that. So please make sure you're doing your research into the program that you are doing. So I moved out to Seattle. I loved the ecosystems. I was especially attracted to the tide pools, and one animal in particular that captured my heart were all of the sea stars, or starfish. There were thousands on the beach. And they were these gorgeous oranges, purples, and maroons. There'd be so many of them that they would almost fall off on top of each other when like the waves would crash on. They were these like almost the size of dinner plates. They were awesome. I'd never even seen these large sea stars when I would make it to like Peñasco or when I would make it to San Diego. Like, it was just awesome. And it's because they thrive in colder waters. So these species captured my attention early on when I went to visit in 2013. But then when I moved in 2014, I wasn't seeing thousands. I was barely seeing one after wandering the beach for hours. So this is from 2 different trips where I was only able to find about 3 sea stars back in 2014. And I was really confused on what was going on. And by the time I was immersing myself in people that were doing research there, we found out that there was a disease going around only infecting sea stars. So it is called now sea star wasting disease. Back in 2013 and 14, we had no idea what was happening. These sea stars that were gorgeous and prominent figures in this large mosaic of these tide pools, they were just turning into goop. They were literally melting in front of our eyes, and we were really kind of concerned. Sea stars play a really important role in their ecosystem. They eat a lot of animals that can cover rocks, like mussels. Mussels will attach themselves to a rock, and they will just cover rocks that is free space for other animals to live. So when we noticed these sea stars disappeared in Seattle, we noticed that mussels were kind of taking over and pushing out all of the other animals like oysters, different types of algae and kelp. So biodiversity is going down as a whole. And while in the science circles we were noticing this happening, it wasn't very long for the general public to catch on as well, because people who loved their iconic sea stars or starfish, they noticed, and the research shows that people were very aware even by the summer of 2014. So this would have been the first summer that we had experienced this die-off event or this pandemic in sea stars. And these people who were living on the West Coast, anywhere from Alaska all the way down to Baja California, Mexico, these sea stars were disappearing. We had no idea that what was going on. And again, as I mentioned, they play such a significant role in their environment. We were all kind of freaking out. So without sea stars, we noticed sea urchins were doing totally fine. Sea urchins, their main predators are starfish. So this looks different though, depending where you are. In Monterey Bay, California, they had something interesting. All of the sea stars died off again in 2013, 2014, but the sea urchins, nothing was eating them, so their populations increased. Sea urchins, of course, eat kelp, so the kelp declined, but in Monterey Bay, the sea otter population spiked. They had so much more food that the general public's like, we have these adorable sea otters that we love so much and they're doing great. They're filling that niche of hunting sea urchins that the sea otters were. Now, for in Seattle, where I was, we had the opposite effect. The sea stars were removed and they were eating plenty of the sea urchins who were eating the kelp. But once the sea stars were gone, the urchins ate all the kelp. And in Seattle in particular, our sea otters, they raised their young in the kelp. So they left Puget Sound, which is the waters around Seattle. So we noticed, depending on where you are, the removal or disappearance of these keystone sea stars, just like our tortoises, they manifest in different ways. Like the result is different. So I ended up doing a lot of research on the impacts of sea star wasting disease. We still, to this day, almost like a decade later, 10 years later, I'm not 100% sure. We've identified one type of virus that we think mixed with temperatures can impact this and cause this die-off events. But I was presenting my senior thesis on sea star wasting disease and saying, you know, all the sea stars are gone and these mussel beds are taking over and that's bad because now all of the other wildlife can't live. I had one professor throw a wrench in my thesis. They were like, do you think any species are living in those mussel beds? I was like, well, darn, I don't know. So I started doing research all throughout Washington State and Alaska, and I was monitoring the different species living in the mussel beds. The mussels were already covering all the rocks. And I found actually there was plenty of biodiversity within those mussel beds. So this was definitely something that was kind of a shift in my thinking of the role sea stars play. And when I presented some of this research, I had a professor who had been doing research on sea stars in Washington State as early as the 80s tell me, yeah, this is something I never looked into and probably should have. So it was very rewarding to have someone who'd been in that career for decades be like, yeah, that is a good point. And I now attribute that to my professor who threw a wrench in my Now, I finished my degree. I get all of the different research opportunities that I want. I have that Bachelor's of Science now in Marine and Conservation Biology, but now I need to pay the bills. I need to be able to afford rent, I need to be able to pay food. So I was thinking, what should I do? So I literally went online to Indeed.com, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and I literally just searched marine biology and Seattle. And the first thing that popped up was working on cruise ships in Alaska. I was like, all right, I'll try anything twice. And at first I really did enjoy it. I gave lectures on marine biology. I would do all the whale watching. I would do coffee chats and be asked questions as well. I would even do offshore excursions. I would do snorkeling and diving in Alaska, which is a lot more fun than it sounds. It sounds freezing. We go into the bay and we look for wildlife. We find so many harbor seals in the ice. We'd see plenty of sea otters. And it was enjoyable, and I knew I enjoyed teaching, but I realized the tourism aspect of it really was demanded. I was kind of stuck on a ship for 2.5 months at a time, and I could never get away from the guests. So this is a picture on the left that's after my first week in Alaska, and on the right is after 2 months. So you can see, even though I was in one of the most beautiful parts of the world, I was still realizing this is kind of draining. So I was kind of a little confused. I knew I wanted to do education, and I was surrounded by beautiful wildlife. There's going to be a loud sound here. I would literally be able to step off the ship and see gorgeous salmon swimming upstream. So I was kind of confused what to do next. But when I returned to Seattle, I started working with camps. So I knew I enjoyed doing education, but I was like, I don't know if I want to work with people on cruise ships who are retired. So I was like, why don't I try a different approach? So what I started doing instead was teaching during these summer camps at Woodland Park Zoo, and I fell in love with it. I enjoyed engaging a younger audience. It was really fun. And to be honest with you, I'd always wanted to work at a zoo, but these jobs are so competitive. So instead of just applying for these jobs that require a lot of experience, I started off with a temporary seasonal job that they hire a lot of people for. So I got into the summer camp because they have a lot of people they hire seasonally. And after I worked a full season during the summer camp, I applied for a job that I had basically applied for 5 times previously. And I had never gotten even an interview for it. So this is something that I've always been interested in working with, but it wasn't until I got my foot in the door and got the experience previously working as a camp counselor. So that's a really great takeaway. If there is a company that you know you want to work for, and there's only one type of job, you're like, I know I want to do this, I want to do this, but there might be some things that make it easier getting that experience working with the company. Lower level is definitely how I attribute some of the jobs that I got later on. So I did apply for this Coexisting with Carnivores program, and not only did I get an interview, but I was offered the job immediately after the interview because my former boss was the person hiring. They knew I had the experience working exactly with the same demographic. It was middle schoolers now. They also knew that I was familiar with the company as well. But not all fairy tales end with a happy ending. I got this job January 2020. So I finally got my dream job, but you can see where this is going. I got to work with camera trapping with middle schoolers. We'll talk a little bit more about camera trapping later. But again, this program is all about coexisting with carnivores in people's neighborhoods. So up in Seattle and the surrounding suburbs, that means black bears, that means coyotes, and that means mountain lions. So we would have in-person lectures, but of course, by March, 1.5 months into my program, we went into lockdown. So we quarantined pretty quickly on. Seattle had one of the first documented cases of COVID-19, and we had to switch to virtual. So we were developing programs, and I learned very quickly, I am not a virtual person. I really did not enjoy developing programs. I was not enjoying lecturing online. And I'm sure this is nothing I need to teach to y'all, because y'all lived it as well. So I really kind of pondered, well, it is expensive to live in Seattle. I'm exhausted working so many multiple jobs that don't even have to do with what I'm interested in. So I made the tough decision to leave the pristine Pacific Northwest and head back home to the pristine Southwest. So this decision was hard. I felt like I was going backwards, but I wish I didn't limit myself that much because really there were plenty of other jobs that I could do, but I also thought about different schooling. So if you just joined us, I talked earlier about my bachelor's degree. I went and got a degree in marine biology and conservation biology. Now, I'm lucky that marine biology had the conservation component to it, and that's why I wish I had gone for more of a generalized degree, because now I'm back in Arizona and there's no oceans to do a lot of marine biology. Of course, I could work in an aquarium. I could work about ancient oceans at the Grand Canyon, but that wasn't really what I was interested in. I was really interested in teaching about animals in the natural world. So I was able to pursue a little bit more education when I returned and reset. So I decided to go back to school, and I'm almost done with my graduate program. I'll be graduating in December with a Master's of Arts in Biology. So this program in particular, this is something I always like to mention. So if you are looking to pursue any degree, Bachelor's of Science, four-year program, a graduate program, a doctorate, look into non-traditional four-year brick-and-mortar routines. You don't have to go and move to a different state or a different city and live in the dorm for 4 years. There are awesome programs that might be hybrid, they might be online. You might take a little bit of a longer course track. So instead of getting it in 4 years, if you're in no rush, maybe take an extra year as well so you can get some more experience. So that's the only reason I'm getting my graduate degree, is because this is a program mostly online with some in-person aspects, or I get to go to the San Diego Safari Park in California and do some research. But most of it's online. But the in-person portions are really worth it. I really get up close and personal with some of these large, impressive megafauna, like some of these white rhinos here. And this is what's honestly kept me going through this program. It's been hard, I'm not going to lie to you, but it has been something that has been rather rewarded. Now, of course, I'm here to represent the Phoenix Zoo and talk about different jobs there. So when I first moved back, I took what I learned at Woodland Park Zoo by starting in a different department to move up. I started by just selling tickets. So I sold tickets all throughout zoo lights just during a guest service job, and that got me familiar with everyone at the zoo. I then applied for a zookeeper position and got the main reptile ambassador animal zookeeper. So I've worked with a bunch of different types of animals, especially reptiles. And then lastly, I have become a program coordinator. So this is 3 different departments over a span of 3.5 years. And that's a really common misconception about zoos, that they're like, well, I don't necessarily want to work with animals. The zoo is its own city. If you're interested, say, in photography, we have a whole marketing department that has a whole photography team. If you're more interested in engineering and building stuff, people have to build these large enclosures. If you're more interested in education and you want to work with young kids, camp staff work all year round. If you want to do more vet care and medical, we have a whole veterinarian team as well. If you love cooking, we have a whole nutrition service department, not only that makes food for humans, but for every single kind of animal you can think of. And we have job listings online, and I highly recommend looking at the qualifications portion. A lot of our jobs don't require a college degree, so always keep that in mind. Don't think, I don't have a college degree, I can't work at a zoo, because experience will speak louder than some of those qualifications will. So as I mentioned, I started in guest services. This is not a plug, that's just my friend Joseph. I'd like to point out how famous he is. So then after working for guest service for about 4 months, I transitioned to working as the main reptile keeper, and I worked with many snakes. I know some people love or hate them. So this is one of my favorite friends. This is Bear Hub. She is a Burmese python. Now, my job is to encourage people to develop empathy towards animals. And my personal goal is that whenever I have people who struggle with some of these animals that they might not like, such as snakes, tarantulas, vultures, it is my personal mission to at least people recognize how important they are for their ecosystem. So snakes in particular, I love mentioning how they are excellent at helping rodent population control, because those rodents can harbor nasty diseases, but those snakes, since they're endothermic or cold-blooded like we used to call them, they can't contract and spread the diseases. Now, bear hug in particular is one of my favorite animals. She's one of the largest snakes we have. We'll bring out a shed later here. But I get to work with a bunch of other animals doing all sorts of things. So of course we do husbandry. So if you're not interested in doing a lot of physical labor, this might not be the job for you. And to be honest, I do feel like a glorified poop scooper, because most days I do clean up a lot of poop. But there's plenty of other stuff. Like I get to work with some of the most exotic animals here. Has anyone ever heard of a kinkajou before, my kids? Got a couple people. I'd love to hear this. So I never knew what a kinkajou was until I worked with them starting here. So I get to work with some pretty awesome animals. I also get to take care of them medically. So that involves working with a bunch of medications, working with the vet staff to make sure that our animals have the best health and the best care. We also feed them. If you're a vegetarian, like a lot of my coworkers are, you might want to consider what animals you're going to work with. This is why I love working with turtles, because they love fruit and their veggies. And plenty of the reptiles I work with, like lizards as well, they like their veggies too. But if you're going to work with raptors, like eagles, owls, you're going to need to get really comfortable with basically prepping rats and rabbits. Now, I do work with a lot of reptiles and insects. This is Incognito. He's a Miller's one-horned chameleon. And we have to feed him special crickets every day by tongue. So he is going to show us his impressive tongue here, and he's going to grab that cricket. You will question your reality a lot when you work with animals, but moments like this are really important. Now, I don't just work with reptiles, I work with all sorts of ambassador mammals and parrots. I work with other vultures, raptors, and we provide a lot of behavioral enrichment that basically make these animals' lives better. So if you can imagine you live in the same place every day, you go to the same classroom every day, it's nice to spice things up. So this next video is a porcupine I work with. Her name is Kayamba, and we allow them to have different access to parts of the zoo where they can basically explore and wander, and she found a banana, which is one of her favorite treats. This next animal is a three-banded armadillo named Buttercup, and this is the only armadillo that can fully curl up into a ball. So you'll notice right there at the beginning, her head plate and her tail actually line up like puzzle pieces. And look at her nail, those curved nails. Those large ones are actually her 3 middle digits fused, and that's because they like to dig for ants. We also work with bats, and these bats live in groups. They're very vocal, as you can hear. Now, you may have heard one of my coworkers just say that they're fighting, and this is a great moment to mention how we will take human emotions and put them onto animals. That's called anthropomorphizing, and sometimes that's a great way to, engage with younger audiences, because if a young kid says, oh, that animal looks happy, it's hard to explain, well, they're actually having a spike of cortisol in their blood flow, and there's different neurotransmitters that are eliciting a response that you can't really talk to a child all the time like that. So sometimes using emotions is a great way to engage, yes, but it needs to be done responsibly. Because if we were to put human emotions on every kind of thing we see on an animal, it might just be incorrect sometimes. A common one is our jaguars, where they say, they look so lonely, why did you separate them? As if I had a choice on that. But jaguars are solitary cats. They like to be alone, or at least they don't hurt other jaguars when they're alone. So this is one of the ways that we can approach these guests in a way to build on empathy and connections for these animals. Now, of course, there are plenty of animals I don't need to really kind of sell. Cute animals like chinchillas, anyone can care about chinchillas.
Do you have a message for Declan?
This is Benson. He is one of the ambassador animals, and he is so stinking cute that I can just tell people, look at him, don't you want to save him? And they'll say yes. But for other animals like snakes, other animals like tarantulas, we have to build a little bit more of that connection for them. So we do presentations every day at the zoo, and that's my old boss, Josh, and we get to do some of this bonding, this connection building and empathy building. So in the top right corner, we have one of the vultures I work with, Machu. She's a king vulture, and I'm going to bait the box on stage here, and she's going to fly down. So these presentations give us the opportunity to build the connections that people might not be able to get anywhere else. I mean, it's very easy to just say, well, why don't they just go to these places where these animals live and build that connection? But not everyone can travel the world to see these animals. That's not an accessible way to bring these animals to them. And Machu was actually hatched at the Phoenix Zoo 27 years ago. That raptor is 1 year older than me. So this is some of the amazing work I do as a zookeeper. I now transition to doing more of the programming. So I do a lot more lectures, I do a lot more team programs as a whole. So right now we are working with a lot of camera traps. So we are interested in surveying some of the different species on zoo grounds. So camera traps. There's an example of one right here. There's a motion sensor, this large block right here. So if anything walks, runs, flies, slithers past, the camera is triggered with that motion sensor, and it'll either take a video, a picture, or snap a bunch of photos. So why are we interested in this? Well, if you can imagine, there might be times when we can't have people in one spot for hours on end or all night. And if we're there, the animals might not show up. They might see, smell, sense us, and just never appear. So these camera traps help us get a point of view that is a little bit more less invasive, so it doesn't prevent animals from avoiding that area. So right here we have a curved-bill thrasher. We get plenty of rabbits as well at the zoo. We're interested in some of the wildlife that's interacting with some of the exhibit animals. So this is a white-winged dove, very common species. And this is actually the bridge that leads to the office building I work in. And we see a lot of these cholla pieces end up here. And so for years, people were just wondering, what is this animal? And no one was able to spend the whole night there because they're like, this is exhausting, it's hot, I don't want to do this. So we set up this camera trap and we've identified a couple of suspects. This is actually a raccoon that we captured just a couple days or weeks ago. We never thought raccoons were sticking around this far in the desert during the summer. We thought they were going up north and coming back during the winter. They're here all year round. But we also noticed a lot of different rodents. We had pack rats, pocket mice, and we also have different animals that we see going up to that part of the bridge. So these camera traps give us a point of view that is really helpful for identifying different species. And as I mentioned, they're great for recording videos, not just the pictures as well. Now, we're interested in using camera traps globally as well. So one of our researchers uses camera traps to monitor jaguars in Costa Rica, but they also monitor different large cats in Arizona. And just recently, as of Monday, we announced we had the first sighting of an ocelot in Arizona. If you don't know what an ocelot is, it's these small cats that are found in tropical rainforests. But again, they do have a pretty wide range. The last time we had a documented ocelot in Arizona was over 50 years ago. So the zoo is doing great research on monitoring these species, not just the ones that we have in a managed care setting at the zoo, but for their wild counterparts. Because that's ultimately what our mission is at the zoo, is to connect people with the natural world. So there is stuff that you as teens can do right now at the zoo. If you're interested in networking or learning about different conservation organizations, sustainability, husbandry, veterinary care, we have our Teen Career Conference February 8th of next year. You'll get to see different panels where different professionals get to answer questions. This is Kinley. She's the one who did the research on the ocelot and jaguar. She's inspiring. She does great work. You'll also, again, meet other organizations. Even if you don't want to work at the zoo is an excellent spot for networking with other organizations. So if you're interested in learning about all of the different jobs that you can work in different organizations in the Valley, this is a great opportunity. It's a great convention. I highly recommend it. And there's even possibilities for you to win prizes. So last year someone won a painting from our Porcupine Cayamba as well. Now we also just started our youth advisory council called the Trailblazers. So this is a group of 15 to 20 teens that ultimately make decisions for other teen programs at the zoo. Because me and my boss, we could come up with ideas, but we haven't been teens for a couple years now, so we want to hear from teens directly from the Valley what is doable. Like, schedules are so hard to work with teens. We heard that autonomy is important, so Trailblazers remodeled our Zoo Teens program, which I'll talk about in a second. But on top of that, they do service projects. So one team built an entire swing from recycled fire hoses for our Andean bear. Another group worked with Arizona Game and Fish to survey apple snails, so they have a government connection as well. And then another team is revitalizing our pollinator/butterfly group with our horticulture team. So there's a lot of different opportunities that they get to do. They get a lot of great work done as well. And we have fun. We meet with other teen councils, this is us, at the Science Center as well. And they're letting us 3D print in this lab. And so just got to explore and have fun there as well. Now, as I mentioned, the Trailblazers redesigned our Zoo Teens program as a whole. The Zoo Teens program is that volunteer opportunity for teens to come on zoo grounds and engage with guests. So if you're really interested in starting a career at the zoo, this is a great program to get your foot in at this time. A lot of people that we heard were really interested in working with animals, but you have to be 18 or older to work with a lot of animals directly. So while we can't have zoo teens who are 18 or younger work directly with animals, we have heard that we're designing bonus opportunities where you get opportunities to work with animals. So while you won't be every day and every weekend showing up and say like rescuing a sulfur-crested macaw, like you'll still be able to get some up close and awesome experience. On top of that, if you are 18, there's plenty of other adult volunteering you can do as well. You can engage guests, you can work at the art gallery there as well. Now, we have just a couple of minutes here that we're going to talk a little bit about our programming that I do. So I develop more engagement programs. So I give resources to teachers to develop almost slides and presentations to use. So we're going to play a game here where I'm going to show a picture of an animal that is camouflaged. What I want you to do is I want you to raise your hand once you see that animal, and you are going to tell me where it is or what it is. And if you're correct, you will get a sticker. Okay? So this first one I think is an easy one just to get us started off. So again, the first person to raise their hand I will call on, and don't just raise your hand, please make sure you see the animal first. Are we ready? All right, here we go.
Giraffe right there.
We see a giraffe. You see the giraffe? Tallest mammal on the planet. Still has some kind of camouflage. All right, are we ready for our next one? All right, here we go. Hey, right here. In the right corner, do y'all see there's a leopard right there? Can you see that? All right, good eye. Good job. All right, are we ready for our next one? Okay, let me get out of the way. Let me get out of the way. Here it is. Raise your hands.
There's an elk deer.
Do y'all see it? You got a spotted deer right here. Good eye. Good eye. All right, we've got another one coming up. Ready? Here we go. What was it?
It's in the middle.
What is? Can you
It's a
make
snake.
it? It's a snake. That's the fastest I've ever had someone catch that out. That is a great job. So this is actually a coppermouth or copper star snake from Georgia. This is one of the most venomous snakes we have in the country. So if you ever are experiencing or going out to experience wildlife, make sure you do your research, know what potential threats, so you can make sure you're having a safe experience. All right, you ready for our next one? Sorry, no. Sorry, I'm going to do one actually first. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you got it. We have an eastern screech owl. In fact, most owls have forms of camouflage. This is all cryptic camouflage, by the way. This is types of camouflage where they just disappear into the background. All right, ready for the next one? All right, they beat me just by a hair. A frog. Can you point out where it is at least? In the middle, right here. Believe it or not, this is the head. I will give it to you because you're very close. This is a leaf-tailed gecko from Madagascar. I want you to keep an eye out on the cheeks of this gecko. They're actually feathers to mimic the texture of the trees they live on. All right, here is our next one. Anything, my friend? Think it's a goat? How many goats do you see by any chance? You see 3 goats? Good job. Now, I'm going to let you on a little secret. There is a snow leopard in this picture actively hunting these goats. Can anyone see it? You want to take a guess? In the trees or like the bushes up here? You tell me when to stop. So it is right here. So there is a snow leopard basically hunting these goats right here. Good job. So this is our last slide here. But as you can imagine, when there are moments where we can't go to the zoo or if we can't bring the zoo to y'all, there are still different ways we can engage our audience. And I think games like this are a really powerful tool. Now, as I mentioned, this is our last slide. And as someone who works at the zoo, I do like to brag. I got to feed a wallaby the other day. But I want to leave a good amount of time here for any questions. So please raise your hand. Please say them nice and loud so I can hear them. First question. What's my favorite animal to work with? It changes, I will say, but I'd say long term, the animal I've enjoyed the most working with are tortoises, unless it's summertime, because they are so active in the summer. They are very active. They love the summer. All right, question over here. weirdest animal we've ever captured on cameras, in Arizona or anywhere? Anywhere. It was the first time I'd ever heard of a jaguarundi, which is if you take like a black panther and shrink it down almost to the size of a house cat, that's what it looks like. Never knew they existed. Also, coatis, they look like raccoons with longer snouts. What's really wild is sometimes they will move backwards and they've got long tails and they look like little dinosaurs when they get out. It's really weird. Question can't, I'll come back to you. The weirdest animal I've ever worked with is called a tenrec. Has anyone ever heard of a tenrec? I never heard of it until I worked with them. They look like hedgehogs, but they're not related to them at all. They're closer related to elephants. What's really weird is they go through some kind of hibernation. The weird thing is they live inside with us, but they still know when to hibernate. It's bizarre. I don't get it. They still like somehow function. What's your question? Animals with the weirdest dietary restriction. That is a good question. I would probably have to say all of our sensitive reptiles. So a lot of our reptiles need extra nutrients. So Incognito, that chameleon, he gets a specialized cricket that no one else gets. And dubia roaches that are from Argentina. They need to be dusted with calcium powder and they need to be hand-fed to him. I've also worked with a chuckwalla, one of our native lizards, that had to be basically syringe-fed because she was so old, a basically slurry of mushed bananas. So, yeah, it's intense stuff. I'll be right over here. Question?
Have you ever had like an animal like escape the zoo?
Oh, I've ever had an animal escape the zoo. So, yes and no. Under my watch, I've never had an animal escape and not come back. We have different codes for different types of animals that might get out of their enclosure. A code blue would be like an animal we're not worried about the public safety. So like if a goat from the petting zoo got out of the pen, it's a code blue. But if the tiger got out, that would be a code red and would necessitate an evacuation. We've never had a code red in the last 15 years. The last one that we had was an overreaction to an orangutan, basically just getting into their moat when they weren't supposed to. But they have access to it most of the day. So we like to overreact and make sure that we're doing more than we need to, than the opposite. All right, thanks for raising your hand. What's your question?
What was like the worst animal you've ever worked with?
Ooh, worst animal, hands down, I've ever had to work with would probably have to be dagoos. They're related to chinchillas, they're smaller. I'd say a lot of rodents are difficult to work with for a couple of reasons. One, their teeth grow their entire lives, so if you don't give them stuff to chew on, they will gnaw on anything in their enclosure. They'll gnaw on the plastic, they'll gnaw on like each other, so you need to give them stuff to gnaw on. Otherwise, it's like no fun. But the reason why I disliked working with them is because our dagoos caused more visits to the emergency room than any snake I'd ever worked with. So just because they look cute doesn't mean they're not dangerous. All right, back there. Oh, the coolest animal I've ever got to work with would probably have to be either our kinkajous, which we had one earlier, or our red tegu, which tegus are these large lizards. They look like monitor lizards, but they are the South American cousin of monitors, since monitors are from Australia, Africa, and Asia. All right, we got a couple more questions here.
What's the most dangerous animal?
Okay, so the most dangerous animal I've ever worked with would probably be an aardvark. I draw the line at primates. I do not work with primates, but I would not be opposed to working with some of our other carnivores. I have fed the tigers before, though, at the feeding zoo. Oh, yes. All right, question over here. So, depending on what happens, obviously, it would require a different action. I would say for me, the worst interaction I had was with that king vulture. So king vultures are called king vultures because they're the first vulture to show up to a carcass, and they have such a strong beak, they're the first ones that open up the carcass. So they have such powerful beaks that they could really just tear into humans, and she is very spicy, but we don't try to give them the opportunity to. So when I was returning her to a crate once, I used my ungloved hand to open the door, and it took less than a second, and she barely tagged me. And this is a scar that's 2 years old from her. So that's my worst experience. Great question. All right, I'm gonna take one more question, and then we've got some biofacts I want to bring out real quickly. The easiest animal, one of the reasons, okay, if it's not the summer, it is tortoises. Tortoises are the best because they go through brumation, which is kind of like hibernation. That just means they're a lot slower. They don't eat as much. They don't defecate as much, so they're super easy to take care of. The opposite would be parrots. They're very hard to take care of. All right, I've got 2 other biofacts I'm going to bring out here. I'm going to ask that we have a volunteer who is comfortable holding a snake shed. All right, the timid breeze, let's hold it for me. Come on down. So I'm going to have you hold this end here. So this is a shed from our Burmese python bear hug, who I talked about earlier. This is a shed from when she was about 5 years old. So she's roughly maybe like 8.5, 9 feet at this age. She is almost 9.5 now, and she's well past 11 feet. In fact, she just passed Kevin, our boa constrictor, to be the longest snake we have in our collection. Now, she is far from done from growing. She will probably be closer to her mid-20s when she's fully done growing, and once she reaches that age, she'll be closer to 20, 25 feet long. So take this shed, add another shed, and half of another one. That's about how long she'll get. So much, good job. All right. I have one more biofact, and when we're done, I'll give you opportunities to come up and take pictures and pets, or also just look through a distance. So, can anyone raise their hand and tell me what beak do they think this belongs to? You were pretty fast up there. Toucan. Toucan. Do you know what kind of toucan? Did people know there were different kinds of toucans? Oh, I didn't. So this is called a keeled beak toucan. Keeled beak toucan. When you look at this beak, does it look kind of dull in color? I mean, obviously it's like an old beak, but when you look at toucan sand, like he's got orange, yellow, red, and those are our toko toucans, and they're the largest of the toucans. But this beak is still pretty impressive, and one thing that I love to always stress is we are constantly learning new things about animals, and the beak on a toucan, we just learned in the early 2000s, helped them cool off and stay warm. So this beak almost acts like a radiator because it's full of blood vessels. So when it's really hot, they send their warm body blood to the beak, it cools off, and then they send that cooler blood back to the body, cooling themselves from the inside out. But when it's nighttime and they're cold, they actually cover their wings over their beaks to keep them warm. So these beaks help them thermoregulate. So this was our last biofact here. If you would like, we still have a couple more minutes for you to come up and to take pictures. If you would like to feel any of them, you are more than welcome to. And then lastly, I will leave these stickers up here. Please help yourself to as many as you want as well. I think we're doing pretty good though.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Just make sure you give Ryan a round of applause. Take a look at everything. How about for the bell rings? Come on up, John. Take a look.